What's the most embarrassing thing you did as a kid that you think about to this day? There was this one guy in geometry that was constantly making fun of me. One day, after I couldn't take it anymore, I pulled out my phone and acted like I was talking to snipers who were trained to follow around people who had been mean to me. I still cringe myself into a ball whenever I think about it. A little more information. I was like 15 or 16 at the time. Way older than I should have been for this level of idiotness. I told the kid that I have people following him and that he should lay off. Or else. He laughed in my face, oh, and it was in front of a group of people as well, so they all thought I was a dweeb. When I was 11 over 12, if I had a crush on someone, I would go find their parents in the phone book, look up the phone number on white pages, find their address, and then in an attempt to impress them, I would repeat back to them their parents' names, home phone number, and address. I was literally a serial stalker, and for some reason no one ever reported me. I'm 39 and I still think about my first almost kiss. It was so awkward and embarrassing. I was 11 or 12 and at camp, we were playing spin the bottle. I was a really naive little girl and didn't quite understand what I was getting myself into. The bottle landed on me and I stood up to kiss the older and far more experienced boy in front of me. I essentially unhinged my jaw and opened up my mouth really wide to kiss him. He stepped back and took one look at me and said no. When I was like 7 or 8 I was staying over at a friend's for a sleepover. Had to go to the bathroom late at night, but it was down a super creepy dark corridor and was too spooked. Friend suggested I pee in one of his baby brother's diapers and I was so desperate that I did. His mom came in to find me holding a soaked diaper with piss all over the floor whilst he was laughing hysterically. 1/10 want to die every time it comes back to me, which is at least twice a week. Similar thing I did as a kid. When my parents got divorced I lived in an apartment building and I made a friend who lived on the floor below me. She had a small 2-bedroom and her room was on the other end. We had to sneak past her mom's room to go to the bathroom and it was loud and we were scared. So we used the bowl we had popcorn in and called it our pee bowl for the night. Dumping it out in the morning was mortifying. I liked this boy in my art class and found out through some mutual friends that he lived a few blocks from me. So instead of just talking to him at school like a sane person would, I decided to get his attention by sneaking out of my house at 4 AM with a big bag of garbage, walking all the way to his house, throwing the garbage all over his lawn, then ringing his doorbell and running back home. The next day at school I asked him if anything weird happened at his house last night. When he said yeah, I revealed that I was the one who pranked his family last night. He just awkwardly said oh okay and didn't talk to me for a few months after that. What the fuck was I thinking? Oh god. When I was like 7 or 8, a friend of my parents had a baby. They already had a 4-year-old girl too. My dad and I were watching as the other dad showed the 4-year-old how to change a nappy. I had recently seen the first Austin Powers movie. So I said, in my infinite wisdom, does that make you a horny baby? Yeah. As the 4-year-old girl was wiping her baby sister. My dad was mortified. In hindsight, so am I. I was at a sleepover in middle school. I had gotten new pajamas and everything. I was so excited because I really wanted to be friends with these girls. Woke up in the middle of the night only to find I had wet myself. I had to sneak into her sister's room where we put our bags to find a change of pants. All I had were jeans. When everyone woke up I told them I got cold. My mom told me I smelled when I got in the car to go home. I told her their beagle smelled bad and slept with me all night. My mom and dad had a lot of pet names for each other: Honey, Pumpkin, Lovey, etc. and I loved to play dress up pretending to be my mom and imitate the things she said. One night, when they thought I was sleeping, I overheard my parents arguing and she called him a rat bastard. Never having heard this, I thought it was a made up love word like Pookie. My dad comes to pick me up from daycare maybe a week later. I'm playing house. He comes in and, still playing a mom, I scream for all my classmates and their parents to hear how was your day, rat bastard? I was in high school and asked a teacher if she was a member of the Mile High Club in front of the class. I had never flown before and was not aware that the Mile High Club was for people who had sex in a plane. I was thinking about the memberships where you sit in private rooms to wait for your plane and get free things. Basically wanted to kill myself afterward. Yes, she was attractive. No, she did not answer. I did the same thing, except with my mom, and I quickly realized what I had said and corrected myself. Somehow I'd gotten confused with Club 49, which is a program with Alaska Airlines. I hope she didn't notice. She didn't say anything about it. When I was a kid I used to watch TV with my parents, and I watched a couple French kiss. So I thought that was how you were supposed to kiss everyone. So later my mom asked for a kiss from me, and I tried to French kiss her. I sometimes think that I was a spec ed kid. What the fuck? This just reminded me of my brother and I doing movie star kisses, where we are just licking each other's faces. I just remember showing our mom one time, and she was like, yeah, don't do that. We were maybe 6 and 4 at the time. Growing up my parents really wanted to make sure I wouldn't smoke. Most of my grandparents passed from smoking related illnesses, so this is understandable. Except they drilled it in my head a little too hard. One day in kindergarten a classmate was absent. The next day she was there, and she was super sad. We asked her what happened, and she said that her grandma died of lung cancer. I told her it served her right. The teacher was not pleased. I apologized the next day as well as a 5-year-old could, but damn if that hasn't stuck with me since. When I was in kindergarten waiting outside to be picked up by my mom, I saw her approaching. I closed my eyes and ran at her and hugged her. Opened my eyes and I had not aimed correctly as I was hugging the wrong woman. One of my classmates yelled at me to stop hugging their mom. I still think about it. I was in primary school, year 6 I believe, and I would have been about 11 at the time. One day the deputy principal was having an intense discussion in his classroom during lunch break. He seemed to be acting as a mediator to sort out a conflict between a group uncomfortable looking kids who were all standing around him. I happened to be using one of the computers in the room nearby and listened incuriously as I overheard bits of whatever drama was unfolding between them. To this day I have no fucking idea what came over me, but for some reason I decided it was appropriate to walk over, lean down and slam my palms on the teacher's desk, like I owned the place, say so, what's going on here? And look around at each of them expectantly, like they were actually about to recount the story to me in its entirety. The deputy principal was this stern older guy who was not the type to be fucked with. He just looked at me with the most incredulous look on his face for a couple of seconds and blinked. Wah. None of your business. Everyone stared at me in silence for several seconds and I walked off sheepishly. I still have no idea what came over me that day. This was not normal behavior for me. I still cringe about it occasionally. One time in 6th grade, my teacher said it's not over till the fat lady sings. I, in my boundless wisdom, immediately turned around and yelled sing at our assistant teacher who was only slightly large, in the way people tend to get as they age. I still think about it and wish I could slap myself before it happened. Oh, now this one made me chuckle. Exactly the kind of thing we all think, we just never ever say. In middle school we were doing presentations over basic stuff about different diseases. Just general stuff like symptoms, who's most likely to get it, etc. My group got diabetes, so we got to work figuring it out. We kinda just got the basic idea that you get diabetes from eating a bunch of sugar, so it's only fat people who have it. I don't think I understood type 1 back then, I barely do now. So, we thought it would be an absolute riot if we made fun of fat people with diabetes in our presentation. So with each of us having huge shit-eating grins on our faces during our presentation, I hit the clicker to go to the next slide and it's just full of morbidly obese people. I'm like, and this is what a person with diabetes looks like. I was accepting a fucking roar of laughter, but everyone just sat there for what seemed like years. Our teacher didn't do anything. I think she was in shock. Then one girl just said, "That's not funny, my dad has diabetes." And we shut the presentation off and sat down. I wanted to fucking die. When I was around 5 or so I used to go to the side of my house with a shovel to shit. Now you might be thinking I dug a hole of shit in it. I wish. I would defecate onto the shovel and then fling it over the gate onto the street. I remember eventually getting caught and having a very awkward talk with my parents. When I was about 7 or 8, my dad had custody of me and my sister every other weekend. My mom would drop us off with him Fridays, and he'd always take us to this nice shopping area where we'd go buy some Babysitter's Club books and have dinner. We always parked in the same parking garage, and I always ran ahead 3 floors down the stairwell because I liked to hide underneath the stairs and jump out and yell boo when I would hear my dad and sister start coming down the last flight. Only one time I did it, and it wasn't my dad and my sister at all. It was an elderly couple who must have entered on a lower level ahead of my family. They had to be in their 70s. The woman gasped and clutched her chest, and they almost fell down the stairs. I thought she was having a heart attack. I was mortified. I don't even really remember what I said to them. My dad apologized to them, and then he and my sister proceeded to make fun of me for years. That was almost 30 years ago now, and my face still gets all hot from even thinking about it.